Look at the pages that cause all this evil. Oh, hey, everybody that's in stream. The call-in show didn't work out. And, I'm furious about it, and I apologize to everybody that we couldn't make it work, but it's Skype's fault, not my fault. And the snow. There was the snow, too. The snow caused a huge issue because I didn't feel like driving home really late. And yes, I'm singing 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 3, 4, shut the door. I was watching Korn interviews, and just really trying to calm myself down a little bit. So, how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody doing okay in the chat? I'm looking at the YouTube chat, so if you want to, I think all the chat stuff comes in, so if you want to say something, you can ask questions in the chat, we can hang out, we can sing as much as you want. I love singing songs. I don't know what we're going to do tonight, but we will be on the air for at least an hour. I can promise an hour of material. I don't know what kind of material that's going to be. So I'm sorry we couldn't do the call-in show. Here's what happened. So in order to hook up to the call-in studio app, which is our call screening app, you have to dial in, and you have to do like all this stuff where you give a show number and a login, and they don't have the talkie part. So you just have to do it with touch tones. And Skype took the touch tones out of their program. So when you type the numbers in, it does these cutesy little doodle-dee-doo-doots for each number, which is not a touch tone. So the program that we have to dial into needs that, and we can't figure out how to dial into it. We tried it like 4,000 different ways, and none of those ways worked. And then we were Jason, I know Jason could have figured it out, but I decided to get super mad, and I decided not to do it. So, I called it. Brian called it, and that's why it didn't happen. You can blame me every time. If something doesn't happen, you just blame me. I'm the guy that takes the blame. I'm your whipping boy, is what I'm going to start saying from now on. But here's the thing. The call-in show is a thing that's kind of hard to do, and there has to be a straight setup to do that thing, and it has to stay exactly the same every week. And Skype updated their program, and it just stopped working. So we are going to put something together. Once this studio in this basement is set up, it's going to work every week without fail. And then we're going to go on tour and take 2 weeks off. But here's my promise to you. Probably
see his screen?
No, we're starting soon.
Okay.
Probably don't plan to go on tour till April. That doesn't mean we won't do tour dates, but I don't think that's the other apology I have to make. Texas. I know I said we were doing Texas, but it didn't work because of South by Southwest. Blame them. Honestly, they should be inviting us to do South by Southwest, to be honest with you. So
sense.
I would actually, instead of blaming me for making a promise, I would blame South by Southwest, which is pretty smart,
Makes sense.
So basically what I've done is I've got on here and said, you can blame me, and then blame to everybody else. That's very millennial stuff. Jane Pickering, you said come to England instead, and since there's only 20 people watching in YouTube right now, I'm going to say this. I think you guys are going to get the Chapo Boys this spring. Don't tell anybody. Keep it down. But I believe they're coming over there. I just talked to Cushbomb, but it was off the air, and I probably shouldn't have told you. But whatever. You know what? What, am I going to get in trouble? You know?
Maybe.
Well, I'll tell you what right now. My mom sent me a friend request today. I assume she's on Facebook telling everybody how much she loves CBD and how it was me that got her on.
MLM marketer for it?
Well, hey, man, she fucking loves CBD.
Is that Bri?
Oh, Jane, I'm sorry. I want to tell you this right now, Jane Pickering, and I don't mean to be a pain in the nuts or anything. We are probably never getting overseas, but we would love to.
I wouldn't say never.
But Brett says he would not say never. I would say never. I can never picture myself getting overseas.
All right, that makes sense.
I would love to.
Somebody was like, hey, Brett, I don't know if you guys will ever come out to the Mediterranean or anything, but you totally should and hang out with me and my friends. And I was like, okay. I'm sure we could do that. We could probably fly out there for that.
We're going to need to jump about 6 famous levels to get over there, I think.
Oh, someone said Brett only street fight. Like, maybe we can only afford it if I do it.
No, still can't.
Well, I mean, you don't have to go if you can't see yourself there.
Can you Skype me in?
Yes.
Can you go to the Mediterranean and do a live show and then me Skyped in, just like sitting in my living room? Well, Louisiana, we came there, and New Orleans was a very traumatizing place for me. I could see us going back there, though.
Yeah, we'll be back.
What? I can do the theme song, yeah.
There we go. Grand Teton National Park. We could do a show with megaphones.
I love Tetons.
Who doesn't?
My dad.
Really?
I don't know. He probably does, right? I can't picture my dad having sex.
Okay.
Just a thing.
Are you trying to? Are you going to work at it? Are you going to?
I'm not trying to picture my dad having sex,
try,
but I feel like he's never had sex
Just
before.
go look at pictures and stuff and try to piece together some bathing suit photos, you know?
You want to hear something funny before we start recording and shit?
What?
Back when my grandpa died,
Uh-huh.
my dad and my sister and my stepmom were like moving his stuff out of his house, and they got, they're getting ready to unload the dresser, and they open up the dresser and they just find all these sexy pictures of my grandpa in different like types of like Speedo type underwear, and, like, tassels on his penis and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I was that day was like, just I'm not gonna keep any sexy things.
Yeah, that's a good life lesson.
Light them all on fire. Is like, if you got to take a picture.
Now the digital stuff though goes away.
If you got to take a fucking picture, hide that fucking picture.
Yeah.
Burn it. Let's go on the air. You ready?
Sure.
I'm going to start the theme music now, Jason.
You got to let him. Everybody, welcome to Street Fight Radio, #1 anarchy comedy show on any station across the nation. You know it well. You've been listening now for a while. We usually do a call-in show on Sunday nights, but our new studio down here is falling apart, so this is not your normal 3-hour call-in show. This will be Brian and I putting together a show, taking questions from, online, from the Street Fight group, from Twitter, whoever it may be. Thanks for joining us in this. People in the chat, you're going to have to chime in with stories and questions so we can keep this thing rolling. Thank you for being here. You can find us on twitch.tv/StreetFightRadio. You can find us on Facebook.com/StreetFightWCRS. Twitter.com/StreetFightWCRS and YouTube.com/StreetFightWCRS. Any of those platforms you can watch the live stream of the show. If not, subscribe to it as a podcast. We're on iTunes and all the other Google, Android podcasting apps, and also Google Play. Thanks for being here. My name is Brett Payne. My co-host is Brian Quinby. And how's it going?
Great.
You pulled the plug on the call-in show.
That was me. My fault. I pulled the plug. I didn't want to. I just, you know, once something gets so frustrating, it's like it's probably worse to go on. You know, like probably worse to go on the air frustrated like that. So I pulled the plug because nobody wants to hear me in a bad mood. I don't think. That's just my guess.
That's why they show up.
I don't think so. I don't think they consider my mood bad. Do you think that they consider my mood bad?
No, they don't. But it
is bad.
But it is.
I know. Like Brett, you know
like
me,
it.
and all you people know me and live around me know that it's a bad mood. But they just think he's always so nice.
Just crotchety. I'm gonna calm my mood with a little bit of Ivanovich's menthol tobacco flavored vodka. And in my cup this week, I forgot I weighed out an eighth in this cup, so there's a whole bunch of extra shavings in the bottom here.
Nothing you do is normal.
What?
You just can't be a normal human being.
Well, I just don't want to dirty another cup.
That's, nice of you, at least.
This is my this is my drinking cup, and when it dries up, it's my weighing cup.
I guess I want to start the show with an announcement real quick because scheduling was weird, and that I had started scheduling third shows and stuff like that out kind of in a weird way where I'm out there. I'm scheduled kind of way out.
Sure.
So I already had shows set up and I couldn't get them on the air. But Brace, my buddy, my co-host of what we're calling the Brace and Brian show, it's like a once a month thing, is working. He has started to try to unionize the Anchor Brewing plant in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you follow these pages. Do what you can to help them if you're in the Bay Area. And it's goddamn fucking amazing, right? Like this guy, look, I don't know if he was salting, but he's very good at it because he never fucking told me. I never got the impression he was salting that.
Right.
Not one time. And like the way he told me was that like he was tired. I mean, he said it on the show. He was kind of like, I'm not going to be an author or a media personality. That was like not something he wanted to do.
Right.
So he made the decision to get a real job, and he was very excited to have a jumpsuit with a patch on it.
That is nice.
So it was just that Brace. That was what he wanted to do, and I believed him. You know, anybody that's met him or hung out with him, he's a character, man. He's a pretty crazy dude.
Well, Brace knows one thing about this world. It's a world of action, not a world of contemplation or planning. It's a world of doing.
Yeah.
And if you do it, that's how it happens.
Somebody in the chat is saying he talked about it on the shows. I never felt like he was talking about unionizing, but he has talked about problems he had with the company.
Brian was busy thinking about his response.
Yeah, I sort of suspected a little bit that something was going to happen there because he was just never happy with the pay or the hours or anything like that. And he's Brace, and I don't think he does anything without a plan in the end. I mean, you said he's a guy of action. He is a dude of action, but he like does things kind of in his own way. He's a fascinating guy to me. Obviously, I do a show with him, and he's a sweet dude. Brett got to meet him in
I was very happy.
San Francisco. He's a crazy guy. So
no, he's great. He's the most normalist guy that was there.
You think so?
Yeah.
You mean like normal as like he is? Like,
he's reacting appropriately to the world around him. I think the rest of us are kind of lulled and are swimming with the fishes, and I feel like he's not at all.
Yeah. So that's cool. I'm very happy for that guy. But I wanted to get him out there and tell people to find him on Twitter
or
and stuff. Like he was just on the news. Well, that's a big deal. It's the biggest. That's a big brewery, Anchor, right? Like. It is. I've seen.
Oh yes,
I know
it was one of the beginnings, man. That was like one of the first craft breweries that I had.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I know their shit. Remember that time? Well, since we don't have any material, I guess I can just do this. Remember that time you bought that beer thinking like, Red Hook was what it was called. And it was like really good packaging, and you were like very excited. You were like, Red Hook beer? This is great. I'll have this Red Hook beer. And then found out it was owned by Anheuser-Busch, like right after he drank the first one. And you were in a real time in your life at that time when it came to Anheuser-Busch beer.
Yeah.
So
I was not happy.
It's always funny.
Yeah, I don't like that shit.
Yeah, well, you had just watched Beer Wars.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were very much like, Beer
trying
Wars
to
is
avoid
the truth.
it. Yeah. I mean, I still do try to avoid giving them money.
I know. Let me do something real quick because somebody just pointed out that the camera has an Amazon box behind me. Like an advertisement. I'm going to do something. Brett, you talk to these people.
It's right there. It's right there. It's that one. There you go.
Boom. All right, Amazon, you're done. I got confused as hell because I thought it was on this side of me. And so that was something.
Yes.
So, Rhett, you didn't know that either. Anheuser-Busch just buys craft breweries and keeps the packaging. It's actually genius. It reminds me of the 90s and the early... No, this is like late 90s shit, right? When indie rock was really popular and all the major labels had like a imprint that was called, it was like Dave Grohl owns this imprint of this is his label, but it's really you're still buying records from like Capitol Records.
Right.
They took so goddamn long, man, to figure all that stuff out. So yeah, I saw that too. Rosa Butzenberg in the chat says New York got rid of Amazon HQ2 and it's coming for Columbus, Ohio. Get ready. I don't know.
I don't see it happening, but I don't know.
I know that Columbus would be excited to have it. That is something I believe. Like, I think if they announced it here, the only two people pushing against it would be me and Brett.
Yeah.
Think of one other person that would be against it. You can't. I don't know anybody.
Yeah, I mean, just Columbus DSA and the ISO people and IWW, whoever. Yeah, whoever's in town. I mean, there's 100 of us, maybe.
Yeah, we could
get together and do like a coffee night or something.
Yeah.
Bitch about it.
Yeah, I just, they won't come here though. It's just not a romantic place to end up, I guess.
We're just, everybody always thinks that we're going to be like this big boom town, but we're like so far away from that. It's like has to be once everybody absolutely has to leave the coast is when this is going to
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it happened in like Austin, Texas. You know?
Great weather there.
And Seattle. And
great nature there.
Well, but
good locations.
Yeah, sure. But it is.
We're just safe as fuck here. Like we're away from everything.
Safe. We are safe.
There's no fucking tornadoes. There's no earthquakes unless the fracking ones count. There's no like tsunamis or floods or any of that shit.
No, that's true. Well, there's earthquakes now.
The fracking ones.
They're new earthquakes.
Right.
Because they have what is it? They've removed our part of the continental shelf from what it was by digging under it to find. Remember when we talked about how like I don't understand what fracking is, and I just was like, I don't know what the big problem is because I thought they were just banging holes in the ground and pulling gas out. But it's worse than that.
Yeah,
there's like a chemical thing that goes on there. That's
I've always been
good.
against it. Don't dig underneath me. You're not allowed to dig underneath me at all.
Yeah.
I mean that violates my space.
Yeah. And somebody said they'd do San Francisco or Omaha before Columbus. Now, I don't see San Francisco happening because I don't think anybody's moving there at this point.
Yeah, that seems like a get away from their place.
It seems like Columbus, I think the thing that they think about Columbus is like it's a good place if you're trying to get an idea of what people all over the country are thinking because it's a diverse kind of place, and that's why businesses tend to like.
And you can raise a family here and have it be like some sort of decent living. You know.
Yeah,
There's people I go to school with. I talk to that came from places like San Francisco and shit.
Well, in the chat,
we moved from DC for the same reason. We had a kid. You can't raise a fucking child in DC.
Right. The chat is talking about how they've never felt earthquakes, and I don't think I have either. I know we've had them, and we've had them in a way that people have said they felt them, but I was asleep. I don't even know what an earthquake feels like. I can't work out what that would feel like in my mind. You know, like
when we had that one fracking earthquake, I was in an office building downtown, and I felt it move just slightly. It just felt like it was like a second. It wasn't even that long.
I like that you called it a fracking earthquake because they would deny to the death that was a fracking earthquake. There's no way that because I don't think they ever reported that it was a fracking earthquake. I think it was just me and you decided it was a fracking earthquake because there was never earthquakes here. Like, this isn't people.
They showed up after the fracking. They came with the fracking.
Agree, 100%.
All right.
So I don't know, man. Did you guess somebody just announced they were running for president today? Amy Klobuchar.
Oh God,
Klobuchar.
Yeah.
2 days before she announced that, a bunch of her employees said she's a mean boss.
Yeah.
So that's something.
I gotta say, yeah, you can yell at her for being a bad boss, but the juicy shit is those comments where the people are like, you know, have these people never worked in their life before? Do they know what it's like to have a deadline? And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but like you don't get beat up or like abused if you don't meet a deadline. You just get fucking fired, right?
You can't throw shit at people.
You can't.
It doesn't matter what you feel. Like I can't throw shit at Jason,
right?
You know, and I'm in a field where like anything fucking goes.
Sure.
I'm supposed to be an anything goes kind of guy.
True. That's true.
If I threw something at him, people would be like, "What a fucking asshole," you know. What a fucking jerk. They'd just come walking in while Jake's packing stuff and throw a binder at him. What the shit are you doing?
It might be funny.
Well, yes, it's funny. Back when I was a kid, we were like hanging out at this dude's house. It was like a bunch of us and running in and out, grabbing ass, and you know what I mean? Like just the way you did during the summer.
Yeah.
When you were a teenager and there was just nothing to do. We're like running around, we're grab-assing. This dude's sitting on a couch with me, and another guy comes around the corner and smacks him in the face with a tennis racket. And he got so fucking mad. In the front of the face. Like,
right.
He's just sitting on a couch, and he comes around the corner and is like, whack! Like,
and that's the best when you go to around that corner and you like fucking slip too. You're so fired up and you fall.
It's so funny, man.
Trying to chase somebody, yeah.
I love videos now. Those videos now where a guy will be like rapping to the camera in front of his computer, and the guy next to him just punches him in the face.
I haven't seen those.
Oh my god.
Is there a hashtag for that? Like
I don't know. I recently saw one of a guy is just like sitting in front of his like computer. He's got his mic set up. He's got everything set up, and he's like rapping and shit. And then all of a sudden, a fucking fist just whacks him in the face one time. Jackass really kicks ass because they opened up a kind of violence that we didn't even fuck with when we were younger in a way. Like we never punched each other in the face. That was always kind of an off limits.
Yeah, you're not supposed to punch each other in the face.
We would kick each other in the balls.
Yeah,
though. Like we did everything.
Yeah,
you know, contests where you would stand up. Me and you ought to do this on stage sometime. See how tough we are. Those stand up and you kick each other in the back of the legs until somebody falls down.
Okay,
you take turns. You kick them like right here in the back of the legs, and if your knees hit the ground, you lose. Like people would pay to watch us do that.
Sure, yeah. We called the bullying games. 2019.
Yeah, we did that a lot, man. Had this guy that could climb the light poles outside.
We could do like, I can't say it. Never mind.
Yeah,
sorry.
Don't say anything.
Oh yeah, I know.
Don't say anything from when you're a child.
Yeah, I know it has bad names, so go ahead.
Yeah, I know.
This one.
Yeah.
See how long?
Oh, I mean, an Indian burn, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that was? Well, everything that hurt was.
But
Indian
I meant like
from the kid.
Yeah, the country
like,
India.
When my daughter was in
Just say Native
preschool.
American.
When my daughter was in preschool, they called sitting, what we called it sitting Indian style, they called it crisscross applesauce. But then they played a game we used to play a game called Stuck in the Mud when I was a kid, where it was freeze tag, but you had to crawl through the frozen person's leg to unfreeze them. That's Stuck in the Mud.
Yeah, yeah.
They called it fucking Chinese tag. This is at my daughter's preschool.
Yeah.
This was way after you were allowed to call things that were like backwards or weird Chinese.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
We haven't got there yet. I don't think so. Charlotte hasn't told me any weird game names yet.
No, your kid goes to the wrong school for any racial kind
That's
of
true.
game name. She goes to like a more progressive school. Like, we talk about this a lot in my house, but like the preschool I put my daughter in, there was a cheaper one, but it was at like a church, and everybody went there, and I didn't want my daughter to go to school at a church
For sure.
because I have this thing about
Separation of church and state.
no, I'm not like a super
You're like a framer of the Constitution.
I am like a framer of the. I'm not a what's the word? Like I'm not a super atheist. In
Okay.
that, like super,
You're
like
demi.
oh, yeah, I'm not but I also like when your kid is really young, exposing her to those things, like when she's shaping her view of the world and her perspective, to let them take a hand in shaping
Yeah,
it
that's true. Yeah.
is probably not the best idea. I've had
You know they play the classic name games too there still.
oh yeah, and I have actually had people DM me on both Twitter and Facebook and like talk about, oh, my grandma is really religious, or my mom is really religious, and I hate leaving my kid with her because she does religious shit.
Yeah.
And my advice is always like, it doesn't matter,
See,
because as long as you instill your values on them,
yeah.
your grandparents and your parents are gonna be who they are, and they're always gonna have to come to terms with who their grandparents are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that to me, not a big deal. Not a huge deal at all. It doesn't matter if your parents have a fucking Bible for her,
Yeah,
a kid's Bible. It's sending her to a school for 5 days a week for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Is more than I would want to do.
Yeah.
I think people worry a lot about
Well,
when kids are because when you have a kid and they're really young, people have like just strange fears
yeah.
that I've noticed. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, now that I have a teenager, the fears have gotten even weirder.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. I mean, people just make up disaster scenarios and like they just think that they're preparing themselves, but you're not. I mean, if it's a disaster scenario when it happens, just because you thought about it your whole life, it doesn't mean that when it happens you're going to be like less fucking shocked, you know?
Right. I've always had that thing about we were just talking about it. My wife and I were alone, and we were talking about like how weird it is that the first thing that a lot of people say to you when they find out you have a teen daughter is they start talking about sex.
Yeah.
Like, immediately.
Yeah.
Just the first thing they fucking think of is sex, and then the second thing is drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a weird way to think about it, but I don't feel like I own her. And like I don't have like dominion over her body.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, and if she's
But you got, I don't know, you got to get in her ear about it though.
right, I'm about steering. You're
Yeah.
exactly right about that. I am about like passively steering. I want to be in the passenger seat of her car, navigating a little bit.
Yeah. It's
But
like,
she doesn't have to do what I'm telling her.
it's like
you know?
one of those dogs that can just be off leash and you can kind of whistle or make a noise or snap and it just stays with you.
Perfect. Yeah, because we talked to her about sex. I mean, my house is Pervertville, USA now. It's like more pervy than I'm comfortable with these days.
Okay.
Just constant penis.
What about what?
Just constantly penises.
Just bringing it up
and-
as funny?
Oh, she loves talking about that stuff.
Okay.
She'll never do it on. I know people like get her on the show and have her talk pervy.
Yeah,
She'll
yeah.
never do it.
Right.
But she.
Well, you using a lot of nevers on this show. I feel like she's got a long time ahead
4
of her.
years. 4 years from now, maybe I can get her on and get her to say penis, and
Yeah.
and slob on my knob, which is something that she really likes to fucking say. I don't know if it's like part of a song now. It's TikTok is what it is. She goes on TikTok and they'll pick songs randomly.
Yeah.
And it'll be songs then they start singing those songs.
Did some kid take... You know what? That's funny that you brought that up. So Slob on My Knob is a fucking 3 6 Mafia song from back in my day. But I'm willing to bet that somebody took it again. Because Jake came over to do shipping this week. And we basically just listened to Rap Caviar on Spotify. And then kept going, man, do you think young people know that this came? Where they got this from? Like, we were just so old man. Just like...
I know.
Like... This is a 3 6 Mafia beat. That's Juvenile's flow that he's doing. Do kids even know that, or is he just allowed to fucking steal Juvenile's fucking stees and do it?
Right, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It's like my dad used to yell at me and say shit like, you know, if it wasn't for Led Zeppelin, there probably wouldn't even be a corn.
Right.
You know, or like the Beatles. Like if it wasn't for the Beatles, do you think you'd be listening to Limp Bizkit right now? And I'm like, yeah.
Right, but if I had to choose between eliminating one of those artists forever, the Beatles are going in the trash and Limp Bizkit staying forever, you know? Right now, I mean, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go to the club. I'm going to start like, here, could you listen to my headphones? I want you to listen to this. Yeah, this is back from 1998, okay? This is like way ahead of its time. And these kids these days are actually ripping this off.
Yeah.
It's a crime what they're doing in the club right now.
Well, I guess it does, in a way, make you, for me, it's like, oh, I care. I want people to know my history. That is the impulse that I think you're living on.
It's not,
is that you want people. No, I'm not saying.
I just want people to like stuff the right way.
Yes.
Deeply.
Yeah. But
with knowledge. And respect.
I've come to this new thing where I think rap might have it all figured out, because they take people, because with rap, you have one or two people that are at the top of their game that everybody's listening to, you know? And I can trace this back to, Gucci Mane, then comes 2 Chainz, then comes Future. And now we're at, I'm trying to think of who we're at right now. But
21, man.
21 Savage, yeah. And like, it kind of just rolls that way, and then they kind of go away. They still have their following when they come out with stuff, but there's then this like one bigger thing. And there's not like a weird historical record of the other stuff. If you get into rap now, then you're going to be a 21 Savage fan, and you might go back and listen to some of the old stuff, but that old stuff doesn't fucking matter. It's what happens from here on.
Right.
And you can just jump in
into the stream,
and it's going to refresh every couple of years. And then you don't have this thing like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Or like comic books where there's all this back catalog.
Right, and where all these people are like, you're bullshit. Oh, you haven't heard the White Album? What the fuck is wrong with you? And it's like, you don't have to have heard any of that stuff. And I think that is the prime music way to like music. Like, it's okay if you like old shit. I still listen to George Jones. I still listen to Waylon Jennings a lot. I listen to a lot of like 80s and 70s country. I love that shit. It's probably my favorite kind of music. But I would never get in some motherfucker's face that's trying to listen to Florida Georgia Line and start screaming at him about how they don't know nothing about George Jones. It doesn't make any sense to be mad at him.
I'm not mad.
If you're a fucking, I'm not saying you're mad. I'm saying like if you're a 15-year-old, like I want them to reject my culture in a way. Like I want my daughter to reject my pop culture, I think. Like, I'm okay with that.
No, I'm fine with it. I don't care. I expect it to happen. And I've seen it happen with other stuff, too. It happens with all parts of life.
Yeah.
That, like, tattooing went from criminals to reality TV to now they're doing, like, stick and poke is, like, the hottest thing in the world. And then it feels like everybody that is my age that paid thousands of dollars to have, like, realistic portraits put on their body, kids are like, oh, I want my buddy to just do this devil on the back of my knee, you know, at this party.
Yeah.
And then there's also people that are really good at it, too, that do some incredible work. Push the boundaries in different ways. You know? Get to try new shit.
It's like...
refresh old stuff. They do a good job. I listen to... sorry. I listen to more modern music that's like my biggest would be in indie music. I listen to more modern bands that are very derivative of other stuff that I like, you know. I really like it when someone like can carry the torch and like when someone says this band sounds exactly like the Beatles, I'm like, great. This is like new Beatles though. This is new music. It isn't the same fucking songs we've heard a million times. You know, I'm surprised by this music a little bit, you know. There's a little bit of danger here.
I actually think in a perfect world, old bands would just do what Thursday is doing on this tour.
Right.
That is the perfect world where you take your most beloved albums and you just play them straight fucking through, and that's what a classic rock concert is now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, look, I'm not a guy like I go to shows, you know, like I go to concerts, all different kinds of concerts. But I've noticed, like, when me and you went to go see Korn, right? They, like, didn't play any of the right songs, in my opinion.
Really?
It was just, we knew, like, 3 songs in that set. And I have a decently extensive knowledge of Korn, okay?
More than 3, wasn't it?
God, Freak on a Leash. Nothing, I don't think, from the first album, if I can remember correctly. Maybe Blind. Or so I don't know.
Yeah, they did Are You Ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the Are You Ready?
It's just, do you want?
I got to hear that finally.
People that are seeing Korn are there for nostalgia. They're not there for the new shit. And it's the same thing with that
idols like
motherfucking.
that. They want new stuff.
I know it makes. I know that
Because I support like the King Khan method, where you just make new music all the time and then just keep making it.
Yeah.
Never stop. Right.
Okay.
But I know what you mean though.
Oh, somebody in the chat just said something that I have to, here we go. We got some questions here.
Old people say Steez. I'm an old person.
Brett,
That's
what's
when I
your
was coming
opinion on Greta Van Fleet?
I like them. I played them and I love them. I don't know. I mean, I like the music. I know nothing about them. I'm not threatened by 20-year-old guys that look handsome and have great hairlines and great abs and shit.
Well, you're handsome and you have great hairlines and you're
don't.
getting abs.
But
so it's like really, no, I wouldn't feel threatened.
I
if
think
I
they're
were
great.
you.
No, I really like their songs, man. I think it's good. I like Wolfmother too. I don't have no problem with that. I think it's a good sound. Like Led Zeppelin was definitely fucking onto something, right? Why can't someone go back and revisit that kind of vibe, I guess? You know, they do enough.
I guess for me, I don't like Led Zeppelin very much.
Sure.
So I don't like Greta Van Fleet
Makes
very
sense.
much. It's not like but I'll say this. If somebody came out and did fucking Lou Reed type shit, I would fucking go crazy for it.
Yeah.
If somebody came out and did like Hunky Dory era David Bowie shit, I'd go fucking nuts for it. It's just my classic rock taste. Because I always...
You have to just search.
Yeah.
You have to listen to a lot of shit to find that.
I'm pretty hard on classic rock. Somebody asked me about Eric Church. I don't think I've listened to him, but some of these like new country guys, I don't feel get gross enough in a way, I guess. I like Chris Stapleton, but that album seems really clean to me in a way. Like, but I still like it. And I like Sturgill Simpson. But I like the real honky tonk type shit. Like, but
Sure.
I think when I try to
Dangerous.
explain my country music taste, it's really hard because I like what am I trying to say? I like David Allan Coe. I really like. I like Waylon Jennings. I like George. Like it's that there is a type of country music that I really enjoy. I don't really love bluegrass. I don't really love folk country, like Johnny Cash type stuff. Like not a huge fan of that, but I really like. There is that kind of old country that I like, but it's usually like guys singing about being in a bar and missing their girlfriend or wife. They love their wife.
Yeah.
I basically, all my favorite songs are about partying or being sad because you can't have the woman that
Eternal entanglement, eternal love.
Maybe
With fits of disruption.
Do you see yourself as a love guy? Are you like a romantic guy?
I'm not.
I'm a romantic
I'm
guy,
not.
dude.
Me and Eric had the conversation today about unconditional love, and I was just like, You know, I do not unconditionally love you. There are conditions. Unconditioned means there's no conditions. There's some shit you could do to me that I'll fucking leave you. So I got to let you know that you're on notice, I guess. And she was like, that makes sense. She's like, that's the same. She's like, I mean, I could forgive you for some stuff, but I can't say without any conditions at all. You know?
Merle Haggard kicks ass. Is this somebody in chat was talking about Merle Haggard? Yes, I love Merle Haggard. But
I am romantic. I get swept up in lovey stuff. I cry in movies, or like I really love it when like characters are written perfectly and then they like finally, you know, get to, you know, they finally both understand that they like each other. So.
Oh no.
I like the rom-coms even a little bit. Me and my wife watch a lot of those.
I don't like romantic movies. Shit. Somebody here said Boston. Yes. I will listen to Boston, but only ironically.
There's a caveat.
I'm a love guy. Like, anytime somebody's in love, I love them. Like, I look at them and I'm like, follow your heart, baby. You do what you gotta do. You know,
be in love.
When you went to Dallas, that was probably not the best thing for my career, right?
Sure, yeah.
But I was never for a second mad because I was just like, oh, motherfucker, following this lady across the country.
Really?
I'm just
You were just like, man's got to do what a man's got to do for the woman he loves.
When somebody loves somebody so much that they have to go to them. They have to go with them and be with them, and they can't picture their life without them. I think it's fucking beautiful, and I think it's great, and I wish everybody had it, because like that's how I am. Like, I mean,
not everybody needs it.
I don't know. I think it's good. I know not everybody needs it, but I think it's good when somebody like if you love hard like I do. I mean, dude, when I was in the 10th grade, I dated a girl for 3 weeks. And she said, I love you to me, and I didn't say it back, so she broke up with me, and I cried for 3 days in my room.
That's tough.
Like, alone.
Yeah.
And,
that's tough.
Yeah. Every time a girl broke up with me, I cried. Like, I've cried to Katie a few times when we were just getting in fights, you know? Like, we were just getting in a fight, and I'd be like, are you going to break up with me? And I get all sad.
You are fucking emotionally manipulative.
No, it's not that. It's like, I would do it alone. I would never say it.
Man.
I would never do it. I did in front of her a few times. But, like, I thought she was going to break up with me for the first 17 years we were together.
Yeah, I believe that.
I just started getting comfortable.
Sure.
In the past, like, 3 years.
You're not going anywhere.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not going anywhere. It is, you wouldn't have put up with all the 17 years worth of stuff and then left when it started.
Right. Now it's about to be tight.
Yeah.
It's about to be money and free time.
And travel and shit. Yeah. No, and it's not even just that. It's just, you know, you think about like, even like, I could even say my relationship with you, we've been doing something for 8 years. And it's like, well, he wouldn't stick around for fucking 8 years if he didn't like me. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm trying to do that in my mind. But I think there are so many dudes out there now that I love Fiddler, by the way. Somebody said we should check him out. I'm a huge fan of Fiddler.
We played him a few times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the old days.
But, oh my God. I had a really hard time thinking like, you're going to end up alone. You're going to end up alone. You're going to end up alone. Everybody's going to leave you. And it was this weird thing about like, people are only hanging out with me out of a sense of obligation and loyalty, which is it's a damaging thing.
It's a shitty thought to have.
Right.
That's like so bad. If you take that motherfucker and put it on the table right now, I mean, what a bad thought.
Right.
But I know what you're talking about.
Like, right.
And it just seems natural, but it comes from an ugly place. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where like you think, because it's one of the, like my wife does this a lot. She's not going to be mad. I told on her about this. She always does am I a bad parent? And because I had the thought to say, am I a bad parent? Does that make me a bad parent? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that recursive thought. Like you can't get yourself out of that.
Nope.
Right?
No. I mean, and
it's the same thing.
If the kid, nobody that I know personally is a bad parent. I don't think anybody, because everybody's heart's in the right place and they're all trying to do the right things.
Yeah. I mean, and like, yeah.
You can't be a bad parent if you're doing the right things.
If you're engaged, I mean, honestly, it's just paying attention to them. And you're not going to do anything right. You're going to do things your way, and then your kid will have to figure it out. My parents did nothing right, but they did it their way, and then I eventually got the life that I wanted, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I wouldn't have done. I don't. Our house isn't. My house doesn't look anything like the one I grew up in. You know,
no, me neither. Everything's different, and even the vibe is a million times different.
It's a matter of, like you said, just trying to steer the ship a little bit. Just being in there, being in the vehicle, going along for the ride with the kid is enough.
Yeah,
that's what people like, the parents that I have that like try to always give me their mess. Like, what if my kid does this? What if my kid does that? Or what if I'm doing this wrong right now and it turns into this? I'm like, I mean, just trying your best. That's enough. Don't be fucking stressed about it. You know, like the food and the shelter and all of that, and the rest of it is going to be fine. You know,
and like a lot of their.
It's like neglect and abuse. Like the horrible shit is the stuff you have to avoid. The traumatic shit. Right,
and if
you don't follow someone's wishes on a peanut butter sandwich or something, it's not the end of the fucking world, you know.
Right, a thing that
or if you give in too much to their requests about it, or are too much of a hard ass, like it's however you do things, you know. Fuck. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just deal with a lot of. I just have to stand in the playgrounds and listen to people come up with these cockamamie stories about what their fucking kids' lives are going to be. And I'm just like, why are we using the mental energy on this shit right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
There's a lot of like people with young kids so often don't understand how much they change over how much time, like how little what you do when they're 3 even means when they're 5.
Right.
And like mine's 14 now, and just none of that. I mean, I'm sure the general vibe around the house and the way that you handle things is the most important thing. Has nothing to do with like, hey, I'm getting you into a thing. I'm getting you into basketball, so you're ready to play basketball, and you understand all this shit. You know, you understand commitment and teamwork and stuff like that. Like that stuff, I don't think any of that stuff means shit. Like forcing your kids to do stuff so that they're prepared for something. It's like, as long as you make things right.
And available and support what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is just one of those weird things that like parents of girls, I think, might go through it a little bit more because they freak out about like patriarchy shit. And it's just don't worry. Raise them. Your goal is to prepare them for these things when they're young.
Yeah,
and if
that's
your
what
way
gets people crazy though.
Right, but if your way of preparing is just talking and saying like
fretting,
worrying about it, yelling at them, giving them a bunch of new requirements and like making up new rules and things like that for them, that's not going to work. I don't think that works. But I you know, I've talked to my wife. We were talking about this the other night. And it's like, I don't think Gwen's going to be afraid to ask about birth control. Like, I don't think I've created a house where if my daughter was thinking about having sex, she wouldn't come to me and like be like, what about birth control? I need to get condoms and shit like that.
Yeah.
My house is a place where you can talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when an example that I can give you is like when I talk to her about drugs as a teenager, a lot of times what I say is, you know, like you're going to have like a whole life ahead of you to do drugs. When you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're going to be able to do all the drugs you fucking want. Any drug you want to try, it's going to be out there for you to try. It's not a good idea now. And people who use drugs when they're a teenager are fucking losers. And she's like, didn't you use drugs when you were a teen? I was like, yeah, I was a fucking loser. Like, you don't end up in a good place if you start this shit early.
It sets you up for, you can be pretty tough to bounce back from.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way to do it. And that's what I would say with my kid is She has good manners just because I have good manners. That's why. That's the only reason why. It's not because I yell at her when she doesn't say sorry or thank you or any of that stuff. It's just because I say sorry and thank you. She knows when to say it. You know.
I like to teach them how to be sorry. Is something
Yeah.
that like I worked really hard on like, because sometimes you can teach them to say sorry, but like there ain't no sorry feelings
Yeah.
in that sorry.
Yeah, we've done that. We do that today. Today so she broke this iPad case that we have, and we were like, well, you know, you this is broken now. We're gonna have to replace it. It costs money. You know, money is how we get food and how we get more squishy toys. You know, so like this is costing us money and that. And she's like, all right, I can just watch shows up on the TV upstairs.
Yeah.
In your room. And I was like, well, no, it's more than that. It's like you gotta pay, you gotta respect this stuff. You gotta apologize. You know, we spent money on this. You know, this could have been food.
I mean, Gwen used to think you could just say sorry and the whole thing was over.
Right.
The whole
right.
fucking thing's over now.
Yeah.
I said sorry.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Right.
It'd be cool if that was the way it worked. And I know a lot of adults that think that way. And I will say that I think that way sometimes when I'm in a fight.
Sure.
So I kind of even
Yeah, it
we're
seems
all such
easy.
imperfect people, but I know that I have said really mean shit to my wife. And then when she gets offended by it, I've said, I'm sorry. And then she doesn't like immediately accept
Right,
my
she's not okay with
apology.
it, right?
And I'm like,
Just-
well, fuck you then. You
Right. That's supposed to be the off switch for feelings, right?
know?
I said sorry, so now you can't feel bad. That's the rules.
You're not allowed to be mad at me anymore because I said sorry is not the right way to be sorry.
No,
And
never.
I apologize maybe too much. I'm a guy that no matter if I say something that I think was wrong, I will shoot a text when I leave or whatever and be like, oh, I'm very sorry. I just don't have a lot of self-confidence, you know?
Yeah, you know, me and my wife go back and forth because I try to point stuff out. I don't like to be constantly saying sorry. It's funny, make fun of Midwestern people because we apologize for everything all the time. And I try not to do that. I'm like making an attempt. But with my wife, I will say something like, you know, 2 hours later, you know what? I said this weird comment that I think might have insinuated something else, and I didn't want to be that or this or that. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now I know that I was me, like, working up something that, you know, or, like, she'll tell me.
Well, your
if
brain...
And if it's too much, you know, but also it's good to check in. I mean, it's through a lot of checking in because I used to always beat myself up about not getting like chores done or not getting enough stuff done. And I thought that she was mad at me or like disappointed that I was staying home all day and not getting anything done, even though I was getting like so much fucking done, but it wasn't enough. I was beating myself up about it. And then she was like, you know, after 6 months of like being in a horrible fucking mood about it, I talked to her and she was just like, I think it's great what you're doing. I'm so glad that the laundry is done and that there's food. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I've been like crucifying myself every day, you know, because I didn't get everything checked off my fucking to-do list.
I mean, I will say that I have this memory of when we recorded the first podcast we did, our earliest, you know, the Murder Rebel Radio thing. When we were doing that, I have this like memory of this was probably 2 or 3 months after I quit my job. I hadn't started getting financial aid yet, but I had a big pile of money that I bought an ounce of weed with. So I had a bunch of weed and we had a bunch of food and everything was okay, but we were really broke. We just didn't have any money, and we were kind of borrowing money from like creditors and shit like that. It was just doing everything we could to have some kind of money to live some kind of life and have a kid and buy diapers and all this shit. And my wife like looked at me and was like, hey, I'm not really happy right now. And shit is not going well. And I thought things would be easier than this. And like, I took that to believe that she wasn't happy with me.
Yeah.
And that she was angry with me. And it totally fucked me up, man. And I remember going to the podcast and being so down and sad about it. I think we were like talking to the other three of you about like, she's going to move out of the house. And like, I've had that's like one of two meltdowns that happened. The other one was with the drugs. And I thought she was passing secret notes with my sister-in-law.
Uh-huh.
Figuring out an apartment for her and Gwen to move to live with her. And like, I just always had this thing in my mind that I was like on a razor's edge.
What drugs were you on when you thought that?
Opioids.
Oh, okay.
I was on painkillers, and I wasn't really smoking weed or anything. Like, it was just painkillers, but it was like the middle of a major addiction. And it was a really fucking weird, it was just a really weird like thing. And I think back on it now about how insecure I was in my relationship, that like, how do you enjoy life like that? How do you enjoy being with somebody if you feel like you're on the edge all the time?
Yeah.
Of them just getting up and fucking leaving.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if maybe it was like teenage relationships. I had like really bad experiences in my teenage years
they're all bad. I mean, when people count high school high school shit doesn't count at all. There's nothing real life about that. Like, you have to be paying bills to be in a relationship with somebody.
Right. I was actually dying yesterday watching that show Big Mouth.
Yeah.
Their Valentine's Day special.
Oh, Erica wants to see that.
Yeah, they did a Valentine's Day special, and there's a scene where one of the kids proposes marriage to one of the other kids, and they're in like 8th grade, and I fucking knew this dude that bought this girl so much jewelry.
I've seen that. Yeah, promise rings, dude. Promise rings. Yeah, that's fucked up, man. That's really bad. We have to thwart that in our culture.
I don't think it's happening.
I mean, there were a lot of 16-year-olds that had like fucking wedding bands on.
I know, and it's going to be that way till we die. That's the world we live in. There's two things that are going to be here until we're never going to see them go away. Teenagers trying to hand over their life to another teenager, and Marvel movies are the two things that are going to be here until we die. And it's just make your peace with that. Fine. Teenagers are going to get over their heads in relationships.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
My kid, like, has a crush on somebody, and you've been there when she talks about this person.
And you're right. And it's the rest of her life is what she's picturing.
Yeah. And the way she talks about it is just like, holy shit. And I just had so many friends when I was a kid that like would just be in like just so. And I knew this guy that dated this girl for like 3 years when I was in high school. And he was one of my best friends. And he was spending on anniversaries and holidays and shit, like hundreds of dollars on her for gifts.
Sure.
Like, kids don't spend hundreds of dollars on anything for anybody but themselves, really. But this dude, you know, he had a little extra money. He was able to buy her like gold necklaces and bracelets and shit like that. And when they broke up, in the 11th grade, I think it was so devastating. It was such a devastating thing. And in the end, really, now I think
devastating's a little strong.
Sure.
I mean, those things are nothing. Like in the rearview mirror of life, those things are nothing.
Yeah, that's true. I was weird about, like, I just wanted a girlfriend, you know? It's one of those guys that, like, my dream was just to have a girlfriend, like almost like a possession, a possessive sort of thing, like
male patriarchy. Yeah, you're still very much in that club.
Like, true, but no, it was. I don't know if I was really in love with any. Like, when I had a crush,
all the movies are about getting a girl. Every movie that comes out, it's about getting girls. Right?
Yeah. It is.
And you and your hapless friends like have to solve this fucking puzzle of how to deal with another human being, right?
Yeah. Well, it just felt like, wouldn't it be great to have somebody call me every night and ask me how I'm doing? And because, you know, you're a teenage boy in Groveport, Ohio, like all the people you talk to are other teenage boys, and they're like telling you to suck their dick all the time, and like saying fuck you and kicking you in the ass and punching you in the shoulder.
Right.
It's just like, maybe I just wanted
a little
somebody
tenderness.
to be nice
Soften
to me.
it up.
Somebody said we need a good getting divorced movie. You know, that movie 500 Days of Summer, we can all make fun of that now, I'm sure, like in the past, but I still feel like that was a really great movie that was really realistic. And I think that's like,
I don't remember.
I want to show it to my daughter really bad.
Yes.
They don't get back together.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Adam Sandler movie, 50 First Dates. That was different than what I was thinking. I got you.
No, it was just about this like year and a half
Yeah.
long relationship that ended and never got back together. And you got to see the breakup and all that stuff like that. And I think that's fucking cool.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
that's
like,
right. No, that's life. That's honest. It's like anti-Hollywood.
well, I've been with the same woman since I was 19 and I'm 40. So I don't have a ton of experience, but you were in a long relationship with me and you started hanging out.
Yeah.
That ended. And like, I mean, honestly, it didn't seem like it fucked you up that bad, but I'm sure it did, you know, because I didn't know you that well. We didn't talk that much at that time, but it was just one of those.
Yeah.
Like, I always think about things like that. Like when you're in those year, 2 long relations, like what would it be like? Because I've never experienced it. What would it be like to be like fully integrated in another person's life and in another person's family, and your whole world is all of these, your whole world is these people that surround you and everything. And you're just like, I'm done. I'm walking away from this fucking thing. It's bad, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, quitting substances. It's like going to the gym. It's like eating healthy. It's one of those things where you can't imagine your life being different. There's no possible way that my life could be different and that I'd be happier, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of have to believe in the impossible. Yeah. You have to believe that I can separate from this situation that's making me miserable. You have to acknowledge it's making you miserable. You have to acknowledge that.
But I think that's
you
hard.
Don't want to. It is.
That to me seems like the hard thing because
it's convenient and it's what you know, right?
And it's all the same. I
was cheating the whole time. I was cheating the whole time I was in that relationship for years and years and years. The reason that it probably didn't fuck me up is because I had like compartmentalized in my brain over so many years. I just went in this slow descent out of this thing. Like I had been hyping myself up for probably a year or 2 before I even fucking got out of it. Yeah. It was like, and honestly what it took was meeting you and meeting the people, you know, Adam and the people that we hang out with, because I think it just immediately I knew the differences between the people in my life then and what y'all were on to. Yeah. Yeah. And everything I was trapped in like conventional suburban fucking territory, like just looking at, you know, a life of alcoholism and denial and you know, a cheap wooden pine box to get buried in, right? Yeah. Yeah. With no fucking nothing, leased everything, leased hot tub, leased deck, leased fucking motorcycle, all of it. Yeah. But I think that like, you know, at the time there was just this riff happening in our relationship where I wanted to be downtown and I wanted to be in the action and I wanted to do more stuff, and meeting up with y'all and everything, it just like, it was everything I needed to see. It was just like 1 minute I looked around, I was like, all right, these people are a little bit more self-actualized than the people I'm hanging around with, right? Yeah. So I'm fucking gonna skedaddle. Like I'm done. Yeah. I think I can make it. I think there's other people out here that are doing what they want and being successful and living for themselves, making their own family, all that stuff that I believe in. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty rough. I just think that I came out of my household. I guess we're gonna do the Cradle to the Grave episode tonight on Street Fight, but I feel like I can't. I'm writing actually because here's what's happening. So we're working on zines. The Hustling zine is going to be done soon. It's getting wrapped up right now. We're going to get printed out. We are very behind on it. That's the November zine. Those are going to be mailed out soon. The December zine is going to be a history zine.
And it's going to be fast.
Yeah,
because
that's coming up quick.
Done.
Yeah, it's almost done. So I'm writing it right now. I'm writing out like my full history of how I got to Street Fight. And I feel like when I left my parents' house, I had just no... I didn't really have any sense of who I was. I had no place to be myself, and I had such poor self-esteem and like negative thoughts that I was so beaten down, you know. And because I writing through that, I remember like being when I was like 19 or 20 years old. I was on like mescaline, and we were Black Friday shopping, and I was just like cutting it up all day long, just on these people. And one of my friends was like, "Hey, you ever seen that show on MTV, Made? You should see if they'd make you into a comedian or some stand-up comedian, man."
That is like a really not circuitous route to stand-up comedy, but it is the worst way to go about getting it.
Sure. But I mean,
it's a way. It's funny. I'll just say, like, a lot of times you'll make these goals that make your end goal impossible.
Yeah.
And that's one of those goals where you're like,
that's not the most practical way to get there.
Because like you could also just be like, why don't you go to some stand-up or some open mic nights and try to do stand-up comedy?
No shortcuts, man. Shortcutters. I hang out with shortcutters.
It's smart though.
But I remember the time thinking that's preposterous, and I really do regret I regret not being in like theater or something when I was in like high school. I think I would have got a lot out of that and in doing stuff like that, because I do like characters and voices and being like loud, and I like performing when we do, like, you know, dancing around on stage and all that stuff. And I really didn't have a chance to do that just because it was so fucking repressed for so long. And just like beating that back took a lot of psychedelics.
Yeah.
To do that, basically, to fucking just break the old brain and like get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, the getting involved in the comedy thing was, for me, like, it seemed impossible.
It didn't seem like it would go anywhere. I felt like even when we were doing the stand-up, I was excited, but at the same time, I just was like, Brett, please be self-aware right now. Please isolate everything. Stop time and think about it. You're in the middle of Columbus, Ohio, and there aren't stand-up comedians being discovered here, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was practical about it, but I still enjoyed doing it. But it was always with a tinge of, you know, this isn't anything you can expect to do professionally, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember even doing the stand-up and thinking, everybody here's a comedian. Nobody gives a fuck what we're doing. And that part of it was really disheartening to me, because I thought me and you were doing something very cool and different and new. And I think I had in my mind that we would show up to the open mic nights and we would do this shit, and all the comedians would be like, holy shit, what is this thing you guys are doing? And it would like start this new trend and this whole new thing. And it would be this really cool Ohio comedy scene. And then we came and did our shit, and it seemed like they didn't talk to us. Nobody came up to us and said, I dig what you're doing. And I've said this before, that might also be me and Brett, because we would sit at a table together and just bullshit and talk and smoke, go outside and smoke weed and come back in and sit down and talk. And maybe we weren't accessible to those people. Yeah. Maybe they thought we were dickheads, and that it's a good possibility that me and you carried ourselves like assholes.
Sure.
But
well, I'm an asshole.
Yeah, me too. I'm just not approachable to people that don't listen to the show. If you're like a person that doesn't listen to Street Fight, you would be like this.
If you don't know my shit already, then you're not gonna fuck with me.
I'm just not. No, I'm not saying don't fuck with me. I'm saying that like people just don't walk up to me because I don't look like a person that you would walk up to and talk to. I look like a real fucking asshole. My head's down most of the time. I'm wearing a hat. You can barely see my fucking eyes. I have headphones in all the time. Yeah. And just, I'm mean. But also, I knew that it was a waste of time. And I knew that when these comedians did their shows, their new live, their live shows, nobody was coming to those shows. They weren't selling tickets. I could see what the rooms look like when they were performing. Yeah. So I felt like So no matter how successful we get at this, the possibility is nothing.
Right.
You know, if I climb this ladder and I do this thing and I do it all the right way, in the end of this, if I can't move to Los Angeles or New York, this isn't fucking happening.
Right.
You know? And I knew that. And that's why we went, I think, you know, we had a conversation. I wrote about this in mine about, so the comics knew that me and Brett were friends and that we drove together. And plus, like, we were writing for each other. Like, I would write a joke, and if I thought it would be better coming out of Brett's mouth, I would just give it to Brett, and Brett would write a joke and for me, or we would like punch each other's shit up and stuff like that. So we were already writing together. And then we were going to this place and they knew we were together, and we would sign up to go up on stage, and there would be 22 comedians, and they would have me go on first and him go on 22nd or something, or the other way around. Neither one of those are spots you want to be on. First fucking sucks because there's nobody there yet. And 22nd, everybody has already left. It's a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
And I have to be there for that 3 hours while this thing is happening so that I can get on stage and not really be in front of anybody.
Right.
I wasn't getting any indication of what I was doing. So we went back and recorded the podcast. We decided to focus on podcasting because if you're in the middle of the country and there's not really a comedy scene, the only way to get an audience is online. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the best moments of stand-up comedy that I've ever seen was one time we were doing an open mic, and this girl from a sorority showed up, and like all of her sorority sisters and like their fucking parents. The place was so packed that night. It was fucking nuts.
There's like maybe 40 people.
Probably 40, yeah, classroom. 30, 40 people in there.
I think I used to say 60, but I know what
yeah,
a big audience looks like now, and it probably wasn't that big.
and they were just ruining everybody's set, and just even like chanting for the girl that they were going to see. And when Brian got up there, I don't even know what happened. Well, how did it happen?
Well, first of all, they put her on late.
Right.
Because they wanted those people to be there for the whole show.
Right.
And those people were ruining the fucking show
Yeah.
for everybody that went up. And I
Yeah.
think I went up like 10th or 11th. And some fucking guy in a fucking white shirt.
Polo.
White polo and a pair of khakis and a hat with a golf brand on
Belt,
it.
motherfucking belt and everything.
Yeah, he had like a Titleist hat or something like that.
Yeah.
He just said something to me, and I don't remember what I said.
You said, come up here, I'll fucking stab you.
Yes, I did threaten to stab him.
You said you would stab him.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think
that was Brian's humor back then.
It was. I got that a lot when I would leave stage. People would be like, this motherfucker just went up there and said he does crimes.
Right.
Like, yeah, but it was funny.
Right.
Like,
trying to be in a lovable way.
Just those jokes were funny.
They were.
I like it. If I did that stand up now,
we should do it.
People would think it was good. Like talking about watering
We
down.
should open our own shows. With
Yeah.
our old stand up sets.
If I could find it, I would. Talking about watering down my daughter's cough syrup so that I could use the rest of it to get high and stuff like that. Or like that joke I had about a lot of people say that they like to smoke weed because it comes from the ground and it's really natural, but I like to do pills because weed has dirt on it. Like the joke was that weed actually has dirt on it and it's gross, and I like that.
Yeah.
And it came off so authentic that there was one time a guy that was actually there to enjoy the show followed me outside and asked me to go smoke meth out of a light bulb with him.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was a good time.
Yeah. It was just depressing because this is like you're looking at these guys who are spending 3-4 days a week going out and doing these things.
Same bad 5 minutes.
It's the same 5 minutes, getting gacked up in the fucking bathroom and like just not.
Oh yeah, there was a guy that flipped out one time.
Yeah,
there was a guy when we went. He was on shrooms or something, and he beat up the whole bathroom. Like ripped the fucking toilet seat off and threw it at the fucking mirror.
Yeah.
And they kicked him out of stand-up comedy.
There was a guy named Spike one time that was the same khakis guy. He looked like the funniest guy at a sports bar by a golf course.
Yeah.
is the best thing
Red
that I can
fucking
give.
nose, silver hair.
Yeah, and he came on stage, and his whole 5 minutes was that he went to a Japanese steakhouse, like hibachi place, and he did an impression of the guy that was cooking, and like it was the most racist like
I've seen it in a
5
while.
minutes that I've ever seen.
Public
Yeah.
racism.
And another really good experience there that made me think I was wasting my time was when that dude came in and all of his friends, they had a car outside and they were playing like really loud music and shit in the car. And like they were all just having the best time of their life. And he came on stage and he told fucking street jokes for fucking 5 minutes. Just straight up. Guy walks into a bar, like sorts of thing.
Yeah.
And that fucking, his friends were there and they were fucking losing it to his stuff. Like he killed. But it's just like.
Remember Voodoo Dick?
Yeah, that was Voodoo Dick.
Oh,
wasn't Voodoo Dick the guy that did street? Yeah, that was him. He was just doing straight up street jokes. Oh, I got Voodoo Dick and shit like that. And it was like, holy shit. So, you know, it felt like such a waste of time. It felt so stupid. And so Street Fight.
It wasn't a waste of time, though.
No, because it taught us.
It wasn't, because you got to get over that pain in your stomach that says you can't go and stand in front of people and talking to a microphone.
Also taught us that what we were doing, because when there were legit fans, like comedy, like people who like comedy in the audience that were there just to see the comedy, they loved us. We always got laughs. And I just knew that what I was doing was funny. And I knew it made me, I guess it gave me like a direction to move. It helped us move Street Fight. Like it helped us create Street Fight.
Yeah, for sure.
To be in a place where these guys were doing where first of all, you know, I was so annoyed with the other comics because I thought their material fucking
One of my
was
favorite
bad.
bits ever was Crazy Larry's. There was this guy that used to do it. We used to go to this. We went to this for a solid 6 months, like 2 and 3 of them a week. Sometimes that we'd like pressure each other and be like, let's go to this one. This one we don't normally go to. It'd be like 2 or 3 times a week. And we would hear this joke every single week, every single time without fail. Because there was this guy doing it 5 times a week. He'd be like, you ever hear those commercials like Crazy Larry's Computers? Isn't that a little problematic? I mean, they're taking advantage of a guy that has a mental problem. And he would do like a whole impersonation and everything. And every single week I would watch it, and I still can't believe that it was happening.
You know what we really should do, though? I know we always say this when we're talking about like stand-up and the times we did stand-up. We should, me and you should just go to an open mic night and watch it at the very least. Okay. Like, I don't have to go on stage. I would do it.
More my speed right now is what I'm thinking is something akin to those like 8 a.m. sober raves. Maybe like a 6 a.m. first thought of the morning stand-up comedy set or something. I could do over coffee.
Great for you.
For coffee and shit. You just get up there at 6 a.m. and you start sipping a coffee and just whatever comes to your mind, you just kind of fucking roll it out.
Well, it's real fucked because we do want to get a space. And I think an idea that I would have for if we had a big, like if we had an office that was in like, say, a garage area, there was like kind of a small warehouse that we could put a stage in. I would love to do stand-up shows there. Sure. I would love to do just me and you go up and try stand-up every once in a while. But, like, I don't want to book comedians there ever. You know? Like, I never want to – working with other comedians, there's, like, 7 that I want to work with, I think. And I've worked with them. You know what I mean? Like, the people that I want to work with live – I want to work are the guys and girls that we work with live. Sure. You know, like Kath and Rachel are really great. I would go on stage with them at any time. You know, the Chapo guys are really great. I'll go on stage with them anytime. Jack Allison, all these people. They're like really cool people, and I would do comedy with them because I trust them. And I know they're funny, and I know what they're gonna do. But really subjecting your audience to stand-up comedian seems like really mean.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, we've had venues like asked to put people on before us, but
Brett, that one guy did good. Nate, that one guy in DC did all right.
Oh, Nate was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's one of the hosts of, but he understands shit, right?
Yeah.
Like he's one of the hosts of, what's Crappy Oat show called? Southpaw's podcast.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I knew he would be okay because he understands what we do.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of comedians that would never be able to figure out what we do.
Sure.
I am very excited about people reading the history of this thing. I think, like, there's a section in mine called Street Fight 2011 to 2015. I think when people read that, and the story about my mom.
Yeah. The
Which
story
I
about
can
your mom
actually
is good.
Tell now. It doesn't matter if you want to hear.
Spoil our zine, man.
Well, I mean, it's a good story, though.
All right.
And it's like one maybe if we're going to just do this
Yeah,
now.
I'm fucking fine with it. Let's sell some zines.
So this is going to be in the zine, and like I'm
There's
not
more
going
to it. You get the whole story.
I'm not going to go crazy about this, I promise. So back in the day, when I was working at the cable company, there was a period where I was a lead and I was doing really well at work. And then I got switched to another supervisor, and that guy didn't like me. Shit was going wrong. And I was always bitching about my job, always complaining about my job, but always saying I wanted to do something else. And I'd listen to radio all the time. Everybody knew I was like this big fan of talk radio and shit like that. My mom...
Because were you constantly telling them about it?
That's all I did, dude.
You would just tell them about
you
this
guys
bit
should have
you
heard what they did on Opie and Anthony yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, you would die. Like, and then Anthony like said this, and you know, it was just total obsession about it.
Yeah.
And my mom, so ever since I was a kid, my mom's done this thing, and it's something that I cannot do. I work so hard not to do.
I know. I wanted to do this to you too.
Yeah.
I have one I could do for you. And when I read this, like, I really almost welled up. Like, when I read your story about this, I was like, that's so fucking sad. And I'm so glad I didn't do it, because I told your wife about a gift I wanted to get and I couldn't give it to you.
Yeah. So what happens is my mom likes to tell me that there is something that I get, like that she is going to get me something, because she really likes the good feeling of saying, I'm going to get you something.
Yeah. Like,
right?
What? The bike I want? You're going to get me that game system? Really?
It was always closed when I was in school. It was Guess Jeans.
Oh, okay.
Was one of them, where it was just like, I really, really, really fucking wanted a pair of Guess Jeans.
Ooh, I would want some I would go for some
No,
right
it
now.
takes them now. Yeah.
Or one of the shirts with like the big gold placard on it.
Yeah. And my mom was like, my mom would say it, and I would get very excited, and I would tell all my friends, we're just going to get a pair of Guess jeans. But, you know, you say it, you get everything.
Sure.
Like, she gets the whole experience.
No,
right?
I mean, this happens to us too, where there's people that come to the show and they're like, I was going to do this totally amazing thing for you. I didn't. And I'm like, man, I don't know what to say. Like, you got me all revved up here, right?
Yeah, she
didn't deliver.
Well, yeah, but she gets the good
Yeah,
experience.
so
of you.
they get everything out of it. They get to see your face light up. You're sitting there like imagining it. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And they're just eating it up. They're just sucking energy from you like a fucking vampire. They're just drawing it out of you. All of your joy. That's all they've wanted was that joy. And they just, suck the marrow out.
So my mom hangs out with she's in a program where you meet a lot of different types of people.
Sure.
And she has just met every kind of person. You know what I mean? And she goes to a wedding, and she says she's sitting at a table with a guy named Rick Knight, who is the program director.
Good name for it.
What? Yes, that was one of the reasons I was like
that's
Rick
a real
Knight.
name.
Like that motherfucker.
That could be in a movie.
Yeah, that's a movie guy right there. That's a real fucking radio guy, program director. And she's like, I talked to him, and I told him how funny you are and how much you love the radio, and he's gonna call you. He wants to talk about getting you in around the radio station. And like, I do not know why I believe that.
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason for me to believe that there was a history of this stuff, and I'm 26 years old.
Right. You should have known by now.
Right.
But she knows how to hook you in.
Right. But I knew that it's like what I wanted in this world was a job on the fucking radio, being an entertainer. Holy shit, yeah, I'm willing to do it. I'll quit my job. I'll fucking sweep the floors. I'll make their coffee. I'll screen the
Work
calls.
your way up. You'll Mike Rowe it.
I'll fucking work my way up to the radio.
Yeah.
To get my own radio show.
Yeah.
I was just going around telling people, like, I'm going to have you come on.
Hey, I might have to pull you in for some good bits, during sweeps week when we did Grand Slam, we need you to do that Italian character that you do on breaks. I need you to bring that energy to the studio.
I'd like it to feel like a party on the radio.
Yeah.
We play some songs. We'll come back. Everybody's like having fun, and people just want to be a part of this party that's going to be so fun. It would have been a dog shit radio show at that time. Because when I think about it now, it's like
going to be a party. It was just going to be you like partying with a mic, like listening in.
Me sitting in the seat and then having different people come on and be like, "Oh, you're fucking crazy. What's going on, dude?"
Yeah.
What's doing? We'll get some good bits out of this. I was like writing things down. I was telling my girlfriend about bits that would be so good. And so I checked every time I got home from work. I checked to see if there was a message from Rick Knight on my fucking voicemail. And there never was. And I would start talking to my mom. Every time I talked to my mom, she'd be like, "Did he call yet?"
Right.
And I'd be like, "He didn't call." And she'd be like, "I just recently talked to him. He said he's really busy and he's going to call you soon." And this just goes on for a year. It's every couple times a month. She tells me he's going to call soon, that she's just heard from him. She just got an email from him. He just contacted her. Now, I want to reel it back a little bit and even say 1 million people want to be on the fucking radio. Now that I work as like a personality,
right?
Everybody thinks they're a fucking personality.
Sure.
Every person in the fucking world, every person I talk to are like, "Oh, fucking, I ought to crack a mic," you know?
Yeah.
Like my father-in-law thinks he should be a radio personality. My dad thinks he knows how to be a radio personality. So like, why would I believe that? Plus, I don't have any experience. I have never done anything. I've never done stand-up comedy. I've never done radio.
Right.
I've never done a fucking thing in my life. I have no experience. And the only information he has about me is that my mom said I'm funny.
Yeah. That's what they need. That's better than a resume.
But I couldn't accept that it wasn't real because it's a mind fuck to have your mom lie to you about something like that.
Yeah.
That's a really fucking weird mind fuck, right?
Yeah.
So, one day, I sent an email to this fucking guy. I found his email address, okay?
Yeah.
Like, I went to the Wazoo's website, and I found Rick Knight.
So he was real.
Rick Knight. Yeah, he was the real dude.
Okay.
I don't know how she
didn't meet him.
Met him.
Right.
Yeah, I really think she could have met him.
And then made up a cool story in her mind.
Yes. And again, it could have been all that stuff could have happened. All that she told him I was talented or something like that. Like any of that stuff could have happened, but he did not.
Right.
I know he didn't respond in any way about like, I'm going to hire this guy whose mom says he's very funny.
Right. Bring him in.
And again, like how many people are trying
people going to
get
college.
This... Yeah.
People have already worked, like people have years of experience like doing college radio and shit are ready to slot right in to anything and willing to work their way up.
I'm a cable guy.
Right.
That listens to the radio.
But you watch a lot of movies, so you just think that this is how things happen sometimes.
Right.
Maybe a lowly cable guy like me could one day be a big radio star.
People have to move across the country to work in radio.
Yeah.
You don't just get a job in your hometown and get to be on the radio and like what I thought was going to be like a 9 o'clock at night time slot or something like that.
They're gonna let me take over Take over the late show. Let's do it.
Somebody in the chat said, "Hey Tommy, bring me the mom guy."
Hey, yeah, we need something to spice this place up. Somebody whose mom thinks they're funny. You know?
You know anybody who
we need more moms listening to this. Oh, you know what? I was just talking to a mom.
Just at a wedding, I was sitting at a table with a mom, and she said her son is funny.
Hilarious. She says hilarious.
It's the top reference you could get, right?
Yeah.
I wrote her number. I wrote his number down. I'm gonna call
email
him.
The fucking guy.
So yeah.
What did you say in the email?
Oh my god, and that's the part that always makes it. That's where I feel like I could never get that because it was probably a Hotmail account. Maybe,
right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, there's a lot of stuff that's gone off the internet.
Yeah.
My early internet career somehow didn't make it, which is great.
Yeah.
Great.
So it was like a Hotmail account, but I or it might have been even like my first Roadrunner mail account or like a fucking Net Zero account.
Right.
It was on dial-up internet. And but it does have like, I know you probably don't know who I am, but my mom said that she spoke to you about giving me a job in radio.
Okay. That's fair. That's establishing why you're emailing. Okay.
Yeah. And I said, it just went through the whole story about it's
really
always been my dream.
Yeah.
But the weird way to end it was like, just please tell me if my mom was lying or
That's
not.
what you said?
Yeah.
Please end this madness for me.
Please.
I think I got hoodwinked again. I need you to just confirm it 100% for me.
Can you please tell me if my mom is lying can you get in the middle of this relationship with a man and his mother?
Sorry, you know that lady you met? Yeah, she's a lot more than you expected. She's a handful.
You probably
now you got to deal with her son.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have been. The dumbest thing you ever did was be nice to that woman.
Yep. You fucked up bad there.
Yeah.
I had mine. This will compare the experiences. I wanted to be a tattoo artist when I was first out of school. Like when I was first got my job at the warehouse, and I was like, oh no, like I can't do this. Right? I was like, oh no, I can't do this forever. So I wanted to be a tattoo artist, and my dad knew people because where he worked at. He worked at a bricklaying place, so lots of people tattoo there.
Yeah, but
yeah. And he's like, I'm gonna give you this guy's number, Spider Mike. And I was like, okay. And I call him.
Sounds like somebody making up a tattoo artist,
I know. But he's just so old. Like, it was that easy back in the day. I mean, the original Atari games were just called, like, the shit that they were, you know? It was like racing was the first video games, you know?
Yeah.
But I call him, and he's like, yeah, your dad said you did tattoos? I'm like, no, I need to learn. I'm trying to, I have some art I can show you a portfolio. He's like, I need someone to do tattoos this weekend. And I'm like, that's not going to be me. I'm not comfortable doing tattoos. I think he was like, nut up or shut up. Like, come in here and start scratching, man.
And you had to be like,
no.
Well, I've never done a tattoo.
I had to do my rap speech. I have a deep honor and respect for the art of tattooing, and I won't pick up the machine without the proper training.
That was a good answer, though.
Yeah.
Like telling a tattoo artist that you have a deep respect for tattooing.
I didn't say that. I did not say
That's
that.
That's what you should have done.
I'm not a cornball.
You should have been a cornball.
He would have beat me up.
Because
he would have reached for that phone and strangled me.
Tattoo guys are corny, though, right?
No, these were like the dangerous kinds. Like these are the people that don't give these were tattooing for people that don't give a fuck what it looks like. You know?
It's like the purple outline of a naked lady.
Yeah, exactly. Fine. Yeah. Well, that's a memory. Like, biker shit. It was bikers. So it was
Spider Mike.
It wasn't like doing neo-traditional Flash or like, experimental watercolor ink and shit. It was.
You were going to learn glow in the dark.
You're going to write Pam on some guy's arm.
God damn, but the thing is,
I should have done that. I mean, I could have definitely went down that route.
right? Well, in the end, right?
That's the kind of connections. That's the kind of like connections my family. It's my family ties. Connection to tattooed bikers. So I had a decent scholarship to get in, but I turned that down. Just so you know, what led me to podcasting. I turned down, something. I could have traveled with them and just every town. I could have wrote down new names of lot lizards they met. Yeah,
Ethel. Yeah, maybe somebody's mom's name.
Yeah,
maybe somebody's dad's name.
I'll do skulls. I'll do those real cool skulls.
Yeah. Smiley face, Tasmanian devils.
Yeah.
You probably do some Tasmanian devils.
Oh yeah. Devil babies too.
Yeah. And it was like, for me, it ended up, I think, maybe being good, because in the end, that's what made me look into podcasts and then start thinking about doing a podcast. Because I think I decided, well, if I'm never going to get a job in radio, I'll just do it myself as a hobby, and it'll be like a cool, funny thing I do with my friends. And who knows, maybe it can take off someday.
Sure.
And that's what got me started podcasting, was thinking.
When was this?
This was in 2006, maybe 2007. It was just it was early on in podcasting. I listened to a few fucking shows and was like, oh yeah, I always like talk radio anyway.
Yeah.
So it was just
it was switched on. It's same for me.
Yeah,
I was listening to like a lot of right-wing radio, like in an angry way. Yeah, and then it was like once I started. For me, my transition was I got a Microsoft Zune, which was like the competition for the iPod.
Yes,
because I didn't want a fucking Apple product.
I just read a whole fucking thing about the Zune in a book I have called Epic Fails.
I did like it.
They said it was actually as good or better than the iPod, but it wasn't enough better.
Right.
That people were willing to switch.
It was comparable.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. It was sleek and it had all this stuff, but it had podcasts on there. And I watched a lot of video podcasts in the beginning, and I was just blown away because the sets were really cheap and the budgets were very small, but people were making shows, and it felt like early like public access or like cable and stuff where anybody could get involved with it. And it got to the point, and that's actually, and when I started, I found like, oh yeah, dude, which I still listen to.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be an amazing experience because I'm going to listen to them for the rest of my life and see I think they're going to do it till the end. So I'm going to see through their whole experience. And I've been doing it now since 2006 when they started their show.
Yeah.
I've listened to them from the beginning. And it's really fucking neat to have that going on. But that was what inspired me, was I was talking to people at work all the time, having more fun on break, just like trying to break the tension of how awful the work was, and being like, man, if we recorded some of this shit, I think that somebody would think it was funny,
Yeah. And my thing was like hearing it was really funny. And this is the thing that you can kind of thank Brett for more than anything, is that like my first couple shows where I was consider myself like a host and a straight man sort of thing. Like I was the most, this is how weird I am as a human. I thought I was the most normal person in the room. Like the thing about the show would be, oh, here's this like really normal guy that hangs around with all these fucking weird people.
Sure.
And then, it took bringing Brett in to be like, you're a fucking weirdo, man. Nothing you do is normal.
Yeah.
Your entire life is upside down from other people. You have zero self-awareness. And like, that's what made me decide to start trying to be funny on the radio. Like, that was when I was like, I'm funny. Right. I can be the funny guy.
Sure.
So like, yeah, that was kind of like, so it's a pathetic.
That was a change, yeah.
It is a pathetic story about my mom, but in the end, she did inspire me to do something, which then turned into this.
Yeah.
So, I do make a living, but it is. I got to tell you, people out there.
But I mean, that's
the whole like people that are trying to do something like this, like me and Brett, if you're a listener that like has a podcast that's really small or something like that, and you're trying to get it to build and you're trying to make a living doing it, that you have to just take every single chance. Like every time there is an opportunity you have to take it and seize it and try as hard as you can, because I'll say this, when the Chapo guys hit and they started doing their thing and all those people were listening and they started saying, we came from, you know, we started with Street Fight. The Street Fight guys put us onto this, and, you know, go and listen to the Street Fight guys. Me and Brett knew that this show like had to change and get better. We didn't just sit back and keep doing what we had been doing for 5 years. We said, how does this thing get better? How does this get funnier? What is our fucking place in this world where there's more podcasts in this circle now, where it's like, okay, so the Chapo guys are talking about pundits. They know all the pundits. They're very funny and they're great at doing that. So let's not do that anymore. Because we had dabbled in that kind of shit in the past. You know, we talked about Josh Barrow and shit like that. And then the Sams, they start doing news and politics. And we're like, well, I don't even want to fucking talk about politics. I don't want to talk about the news. So, you know, that's when we went back to where we started. And we started talking about work and what it's really like to live on the street. I mean, when you look at the name Street Fight, it really is like street level news. I want people to talk about what's happening in their life so we can get an idea of what like an everyday life is.
Yeah.
And I want me and Brett to talk about what's happening in our everyday life. What are our struggles with paying bills? How much money is in your bank account right now? And what are you dealing with? I think that kind of stuff is news too, in a way, and that's the kind of thing we cover. And unfortunately, the call-in show didn't work, but the call-in show is reporting. I consider every caller that calls into that show and talks about what their life is like, that's work. That's like a job. It's not a job for them, obviously, but it is telling me what a regular person's life looks like out there, and their helplessness and their struggles and their joy and their triumphs and what they've been able to take back from capitalism. Like, this is a record of what happened at this time in capitalism. And like, I'm glad that I'm glad we found that, but it could have just as easily just been like, just keep doing what we're doing. Just keep doing what we're doing. And we could have just kept doing what we were doing a little bit of this, doing a little bit of that, doing a little bit of this. And we didn't. And the show took off. And that was how, that was kind of how it picked up. And I think that, like, I have talked to a lot of people who try to do entertaining shit. And I've talked to people who try to do stand up at our shows and stuff like that. And like, when they start telling their stories, they talk about these opportunities they had where they said, you know, I couldn't really do it because I couldn't get there. I couldn't really do. My dad tells a famous story. Well, my friends all went to Woodstock, but I had to work. And I was like, where were you working? He was like, Lazarus, which is Macy's. And I'm like, why didn't you just like quit and go to Woodstock? And that was, you know, Philadelphia show with the Chapo guys, that first DNC thing, we were bringing in $800 a month on Patreon.
Yeah.
And we somehow said, we need to fucking get there and we need to do this because this is important. And we did it. And we fucking pulled it off, man. And
we slept in Matt Ramone's fucking house.
Yeah. And I think it's important.
All five, everybody from Chapo and Street Fight. All five of us.
I think it's important that people understand that there are, like, every teeny tiny little thing that you get asked to do that happens along the way means something. If somebody asked me to do their podcast, I'm like, oh, we only have like 300 people listening, but it's like, I'm not just doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. I feel like if you want me on your show, then that's an important enough reason for me to make time and to be on your show, you know? And I just do it. I do it all the time because I don't want to be a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a person that you know, gets up there, but I really think that a lot of people, you take every opportunity and when you do, like, if you're doing a podcast, if there's going to be a time where you have more listeners, if you're going to have me on per se, or you're going to have Will or Felix or Matt on, they'll do a lot of podcasts too, you know, if you're going to have something like somebody like them on, then make sure that show is fucking great. Make sure the sound quality is good. Make sure the show that comes after that is fucking great. Make sure the sound quality is good. Don't do anything annoying. And that is how it happens. It's just a slow climb, and every chance you get to get into more people, you have to work really fucking hard to make sure that time is going to be good, because you really, with most people with a podcast, you get like 1 or 2 chances maybe, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Because that's how I am.
Well, yeah, and I got to say also to people that, it's hard to be young and, not know and be impatient, and you want things to change quick. And, when we started this thing, I was 26 years old, and I am now turning 35 this year. So at the time, I think when we did best is I think we grew at a rate that was appropriate, where we were doing the show in the beginning in the spare time after work and stuff, and it was that amount of work that we did. And throughout the years, we asked for money for a website like 5 or 6 years into doing the show. We asked for someone to just straight up pay for it because I didn't want to have to do it myself anymore. That was a big step. And now we have much bigger problems, and the money's a lot larger, and the government's on our back more, and but your problems get bigger and bigger and bigger, but they start out very small. And whatever it is, like hobbies and shit, if you do them in your part-time, where you spend it is a world of action. Where you spend your time is where you're going to end up. Spending your time around musicians and doing band shit will probably land you in a band. But
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, because like right now, let me think, the amount of money that we're making is not more than what I was making when we started the show. I think I was making $35,000 when we started the show.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was still making $40,000 and we did the show once a week and there was no requirements of shipping or doing any of the other stuff besides just doing it as a hobby, I would have been completely okay with that.
Yeah, I've said that too. I don't think this show would have ended if it didn't become our job. It may have got cut back a little bit if I was being a teacher or something like that. Right. We
got a big chance that we took, but part of any creative or entrepreneurial type endeavor like that, it's just time spent. Mm-hmm. You want to get the more time you do it, the more of a professional you become.
A thing I want to say to people that might be thinking about doing something like this also, this is just something that I've said to a lot of like younger people that are doing this. The Chapo model of success isn't what you think it was. Like, it wasn't these guys do a podcast and it's really successful in one night and then they just do it. These were guys like Felix had a huge following.
I think it was like that 30 or 60,000 some people that you're debuting in front of.
Right. And the thing I like to tell people is their success was not the prime way. It's not typical.
Yeah.
And it's probably not the way you want it to happen. Like you want it to they're happy. Right, I'm not saying they're not happy with, but they had to learn in front of all those fucking people with all that kind of scrutiny. We were very lucky to not have to learn that shit. You know what we were very lucky that we did it in obscurity.
Yeah.
And got good so that when people came to us, we were good.
We're already good. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who think that their model is the way that it works. And it's like, not only is that like not the way it works, but it's also not the best way
it's the most
for
rare.
It to happen. Yeah.
And what's the best way? I would prefer that over any other way, to be honest.
Well, I'm saying, but it's not the best way it's not the best way to learn how to do what you're doing, I guess, is how I feel. But, I would like to have all the money. That would be great. But, they're sweet guys. And like I've said earlier, they were, they helped us a lot. In the beginning, we helped them too. We're sweetie pies, so whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna go home now.
Street Fight.
Yeah, that's kind of a history. When you read the zine, though, you're gonna get like my version of the history and Brett's version of the history. And I think when you read how different we are, you're going to be very like, oh, I didn't know they were that different. I've always felt like me and you
The people on the West Coast, I got enough comments on the West Coast that I think people know the difference.
Yeah. Well, Brett loves comedy.
I do love comedy.
I think that's what you said to me. You sent me a text and you were like,
me up. I read your thing. And you were like talking about how much you despise stand-up comedy and jokes and all this stuff. And then I was like, the first thing I want to write on this page is I have loved comedy ever since I was a kid.
Look, when I say I don't like jokes, obviously I like jokes. Like the way I tell them and the way my friends tell them. But I don't like sing-songy stuff. That's what stand-up comedy to me always seems so sing-songy. Yeah. So, thanks for listening tonight. We wanted to do I wanted to do a longer show since we couldn't do the call-in show, and I'm fairly certain that some people depend on that 3 hours of radio.
Yeah, I know they need
times.
it. Yeah.
Like I did.
Make it through a commute.
That's another thing. I can tell you another like secret little behind the scenes like thing with us is that when I was a kid, back in when I was a teenager and when I was really into talk radio, I used to get furious that very furious that they would take these really long vacations. These fucking like 3 and 4 week vacations Howard Stern would take and play best ofs. And that's why we have 2 shows. That's why the show's there's always something on the feed. And we're taking a 3-week vacation this year in late June, early July, and there will be shit on the feed. 3 shows. All 3 of those weeks on the feed. But I got to take some time, my mans. I got to take that time.
82306.
And I love you people. Good night.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the show. If you want to send us mail, we're P.O. Box 82306, Columbus, Ohio 43202. Send us something, and we will share it on the live stream here. You can also get a hold of us, streetfightradio@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff as well, at StreetFightWCRS. We have bonus content. If you want to watch the Fire Festival video, the Hulu one, we watched that. We did Kitchen Nightmares. I've been working on my Adobe Premiere, which is video editing software. I've been working on that. I'm going to get a Los Angeles video soon. I even adjusted the colors, like the white balance and shit, so that it looks good.
Right on.
We got the audio from the board, so it's not all fucking maxed out and everything.
Hey, let me just say this. The 3-week vacation will have 3 new they will have new shows, by the way.
Okay.
Might be co-hosts. It might be guest hosts. It might be me and Brett doing something fucking weird. But they will not be best ofs. They will be new fucking material. We will never leave you 3 weeks without stuff.
Okay.
We're too nervous to do that. We think you'll forget about us when we're gone. But we need a break. We've never taken a vacation.
True.
Street Fight, 8 years, no days off. We're taking 3 weeks off.
We don't get tired. Street Fight, you can also support the show. Patreon, like I said, $5 a month, live shows, copies of the zines, and bonus audio, mostly Brian talking to other people. I did a interview with the Art and Labor podcast, though, recently, so there is lots going on. You got to get in there. You got to give us your support. That way that we can grow this organization horizontally enough that we smash all hierarchies across the flat earth. We also have t-shirts available. They are union made and union printed. They are at store.streetfightradio.com. We have pro gumball shirts. We have anti gumball shirts. We have Lonnie Tunes t-shirts. Go check them out. Store.streetfightradio.com. I'm also working on getting the zine library back up there. So right now we've got 3 or 4 up. If you're looking for hard copies of the back issues of the zine, there are a lot coming your way. I have more information on that coming on Monday. Also, if you want to join me on my live streams, I do Instagram ones a couple of times a week, usually in the morning after the gym. So if you're usually bored between 7 and 9 o'clock, check me out. I'll be on Instagram at StreetFightWCRS. You'll get a notification and all of that. Thanks for tuning into the show, supporting what we do, continuing this thing. We will see you later this week. We're Street Fight. Peace.